it, just shake it.
That was a great summer tune. That was a great summer.
But
That's
the
the first bit. Yeah, it's just a big scream, isn't it?
No messing.
Can you sing? Did you hold a note there, or was I imagining things?
We've discussed this before. You plonker. Davy's after spinning it all over himself. Taste test.
Did we discuss this before?
Oh, Kinger, go move on. We did.
So you can sing. Was
Yes.
it you? Yeah.
But
He
we had
was
a
one of the
discussion.
boys with Paul Mescal in Phantom of the Opera. He was one of the boys.
That's a bit top. That's a bit
That's
top.
Don't give your rating though.
I spilled it all over.
You also asked me in the offside as well.
That's mad.
Kinger.
So that's my third time asking you.
absolute
I'll
loser.
ask you
I
again.
know who
I'll
out of the
ask you
three yous is gonna like that. I could rank the way yous are
All
gonna
right,
like
so
that.
how about you do that, and then we will give our answer as well.
I think
Can I do a smell test?
he likes it the most, he likes it the least, and you'll be middle ground.
That's so accurate.
King, it's a bit top.
Oh. What's that?
King, are giving nothing away.
Poker face.
It's a bit top.
Do you want it back?
Well, yeah, leave it there.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Leave it there.
It's a bit top.
Right.
It's a 3.5 for me, guys.
Yeah, I think it's a 4 for me.
I think it's absolutely brutal. If I'm being honest, I think it's brutal.
Honestly, I thought it was good.
You don't eat your fruit.
Yeah, but it just seems like someone just. Do you know what it tastes like? Someone just put pear on the ground and went, put it in a bottle. That's what it tastes like.
I like flavoured water.
Rotten.
That, to be fair.
I don't like flavoured water anyway, if I'm being 100% transparent. But
disclaimer.
that is poor. I would give it a 4 max.
Yeah, 3 for me.
Sticky now.
It's like a bad dilute. You know when you dilute something, you don't put enough dilute in it. It's just like water with a hint of orange or something.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like that,
yeah.
but
That's
apple
good.
and pear.
The taste in my mouth now is bad.
Yeah, not good.
All right, sorry, lads.
Yeah.
What's
Do you have a
what's your
question?
rating out of 10?
Do better.
I like that. That's 7 for me.
Okay. Did you say something to me there?
So do you have a question for us today?
I do. I have a question. If you could coach or manage any club in Ireland, what club would you coach and why?
You can't say Shells, can you?
Coach or man? It has to be Ireland.
No, okay, I'll open it up because Ireland's a little bit too small. Let's go globally. What club would you like to work in?
In their current state.
Yes. And it could be academy level, it could be first team level, whatever.
Because you'd love a bit of Barca Academy, but also like they're a bit
PSV.
bad now.
Really?
I thought you were going to PSG there for a sec.
Macho.
PSV
Actually,
is great.
Maybe PSG just to see what's going on over there. That must be
That'd be kinda
mental.
I think the Dutch league would be very interesting to be around.
I have a soft spot for Everton. I think Everton. I just like
Scrap
now.
every year.
Yeah.
First team or
I
academy?
have a soft space for
First
Finch
team.
Farm and like their
Yeah,
whole.
and
yeah.
Goodison is my favourite ground in the league.
They're
Even
getting
though
rid of it
it's
now
not
soon, aren't they?
next
So you'd
year.
be Everton.
Probably, like I'd like to say that, but probably just go Real Madrid, win a lot of leagues. I'd say Real Madrid definitely. Actually,
Didn't take you long to change that, did it?
You went from Goodison to the Bernabeu.
one or the other doesn't really matter. Well, it does, but one or the other.
It doesn't matter.
One or the other for me.
Are you genuinely PSV more? I thought
Oh,
you'd be
no, it's
Manchester
just a
United all
random shit.
over.
Well, yeah, it would be United, but like that's just too easy of an answer. I was just trying to be different, if I'm being honest. PSV would be cool though. They're on the up.
Brighton to see what's going on in the scouting system.
Brighton would
That'd
be
be
great
cool.
shows either.
Like them
That's a
teams
joke.
who are just bringing in lethal players.
Aston Villa.
Good evening.
Nah.
Great facilities. Big club too. What about Newcastle?
Over
Newcastle would be a good one because you've all the money in the world.
sound. But like, if you
And
have
you
career
have a
mode.
deadly stadium,
Yeah.
and you have deadly fans.
And it's a great place to live, I think.
Really,
Second.
Newcastle? Oh, well, yeah, it's a good city, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's out in the middle of nowhere, though, isn't it? It's like
Yeah,
miles up.
north east.
Northeast.
It's only that Middlesbrough and Sunderland. I
Yeah.
think. I don't need football.
Yeah, you're
clubs
right.
anyway.
You're right.
So yeah, we'll be that
Nice.
particularly appealing, but it's a good
Yeah.
nightlife scene.
It's not about the nightlife.
On the reshift of the podcast, we're going to try and put a bit more focus onto football related topics. One that came up that I thought was interesting was, why do kids want to be professional footballers? Because it's a question I don't think we ask enough of, primarily because I think a lot of people course through their hobbies or decisions they kind of fall into football for love, let's say, in the early stages. But how come it can't just be love? Why does it have to be a career? I just think it's an interesting question. When you actually sit down and actually put the gun to somebody's head and say, do you actually want to be that? Who knows? I'm going to kick off this to the floor with an open screenshot that Reece James released yesterday, 29th of May, a screenshot from his diary. And he was basically saying within the diary that people see from the outside this life as a luxurious footballer, but he says it's the furthest thing from it and that he wouldn't wish it upon anybody. And he's a player that's probably at the peak of his, well.
Was that like a social media context, as in like the spotlight being on? Did he say any reason why?
Just the life
Oh,
of a footballer is what he said.
I think it was injury, wasn't it? Because he's out injured or
He's
something.
injured at the moment.
Yeah,
I think it's in general though.
Yeah, I think because the life of a football player is not what people think it is from the outside.
A
So
lot
it's
of
an
spare
interesting
time.
I'd say when they're
Expectations.
injured, considering like the top players are top competitors, when they're injured, it must kill them. Like, I wouldn't describe myself as that type of person. So if I was a footballer and I got injured, I think that's why I wouldn't be a footballer. I'm not that kind of level, but it wouldn't bother me as much. But like, when them people are like serial competitors, it must like proper get to them. And no matter how much money they're getting paid, they're still not doing what they want to do, you know, that kind of way. So that's a big one for injuries in particular.
Yeah, especially in that sense, yeah. My first thing as to why kids want to be professional footballers, I think it's their first love and they don't know anything else, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
It could be as simple as that.
The role models, the superstardom of it, I'd say, is a big one as well. Everyone wants to grow up and be a superstar. Whether it's a singer or like a footballer or anything like that. A lot of people grow up to be like a proper top A-list celebrity. I think when you're that age, like when you're starting out, like when you're 7 or 8, I think most kids are like, I want to be Ronaldo or I want to be Beyonce.
I was going to say Beyonce. I was going to say Beyonce.
Nice.
Why though? Why do you want to be a superstar?
I think because they fall in love with their sport, and then they're always going to fall in love with the best part of that sport or the best people in it. So it's probably that. Like, and then you're like, everyone needs role models.
Because it's interesting, because when I thought about that, because I was asking that question to myself internally, I was thinking, does a child want to follow their role model because their role model is loved and respected by everybody? And is that not all that a child wants as well? Is to be loved
I think it's because
and
it's pushed
respected.
in their face.
And they don't see the bad side of it at that age. Like, they wouldn't see like the Reece James's thing. Kids wouldn't see that. Like,
Yeah.
maybe now
and
they
it's
would, but
pushed.
before they, like when we were kids, they probably wouldn't.
Yeah. Like, you're pushed the positive side of their life. Like, you see Ronaldo, you see him in the Nike advert, you see they're like, the role models are essentially pushed on top of us by marketing as well. And they're only seen in a positive light, usually by the marketing. So it's kind of like, why wouldn't it? They're like gods, essentially.
Yeah.
You know?
That's the thing, though. There is so few of them at that top level. Top level. That's the only level we really see. While professional football, I've mentioned this before, professional football is like, I think Ireland has professional teams here, full-time football. That is professional football. That doesn't mean you're making millions a year or thousands a month. That's not the case. So professional football at the highest peak, those compete in the Champions League, those compete in the Europa League, even in around conference and your Premier League teams or whatever. Like, they're here. Then you go down the pecking order and just, yes, the same type of life, obviously full-time footballer, but the whole luxury side of things is not good. Like, it's a majority of people do not suit that lifestyle. And again, what I was saying about percentages, the amount of minor percentage people who can reach that elite level, first of all, if they have the talent or not. Also, everything else that goes with it, the grittiness and so on. When they're younger, so when they're kids, like you said, everything gets pushed on them externally, but even those around them haven't the bleeding clue what it's actually like to be a footballer, and they're trying to push it on them, much like we wouldn't know certain jobs in different industries, but like, it's not sexy to do that, like certain jobs in certain industries. So even the circles of these people that are trying to push it on them, that's why you get all that cracking at younger ages for players who are in around good levels, and they just crack, they crumble. because all this external pressure's coming in, and and then the people pushing on them haven't a clue have what it's actually like to be a footballer. Let's say they do get there. So it's mad how few people in the world, the biggest sport in world football, how few people actually in the world know what it's like to be a professional footballer every single day. It's crazy.
And on the flip side of that, I think a lot of people want to be professional footballers because at a young age they do love it, and let's say marketing's influence that it pushes the better sides of it. But what about people who are away from Western culture? Let's say, for example, live in the favelas in Brazil.
They still know their
forced to
heroes
play.
though. They know their Neymar. They like, just taking Brazil as an example. I still think they'd know
Yeah.
who they're
Even
that's
more
their
so,
god.
maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe even more so
Yeah.
that they would go chase that.
How do you spell murals?
Murals.
Yeah.
Murals.
They probably
It's
chase
like
it
the
even
Maradona
more
and
so
all, like, it's like,
from them
yeah.
areas.
So is it a case of more want or need?
For a lot of people, again, it doesn't always have to be like football or some sort of skill-based thing, but a lot of people do have talents and they will go make X amount of money or try to make X amount of money as a necessity because they can't do anything else. They don't have anything else. They could be super talented at something and could just go chase it. Much like a top accountant. Maybe I'm saying, speaking out of turn, but I wouldn't say like thousands of accountants you have to pull them in. Like, I absolutely love this. If they're just top at it, they may as well just keep going and make money.
Yeah.
Same for anyone who's good in business or whatever. Like, could be any industry. If you're just good at it.
So remember, like,
Go make
Oscar
money off
left
it.
Chelsea and he went
Yeah.
to China, and everyone kind of went about mad because he was obviously in his prime, so to speak. But he was kind of like, yeah,
But that was
gotta
a
make money,
career
like,
choice.
yeah.
Again, yeah, like that. We don't know anything about him.
yeah.
We don't know anything about his background. We don't know anything to do with anything in his life. That, again, I was actually talking to Amy about this the other day. He could retire. He probably is going to retire soon, isn't he? Or is he retired?
And could be, but like generations of his family
Yeah.
are
Yeah, probably.
covered. Like,
Yeah, which is fantastic, like, when you consider it. But yeah, to the immediate football fan, I'd be like, it's a cash out. It's like, well, yeah, he's going to be retired at 34. Is he going to be a pundit? Probably not. Is he going to be anything else related in football? Maybe
does
not.
he want
so
to be?
what does he do for the rest of his life? He needs to make money to live. Like, it's
Yeah.
crazy when you consider. And he was up here. Champions League football, Chelsea. He's a good player, obviously.
it's also funny because in anyone else's job, the people who give that out about that, if I went, right, you can move to a company wherever across the fucking city and it's an extra 3 times your wage, they're like, yeah, grand. It's exactly what he done just because he moved away from the
Yeah.
English Premier League. like,
Footballers are separated from society in a weird way. It's strange. And most people at like elite level sport, it's like we just treat them completely different because they do live a different lifestyle. Excuse me. They do live a different lifestyle, but we like completely disconnect from them. Maybe is that because we don't actually know much? Obviously, we get a little bit of insight now because we're around them or whatever. But even then, like, we still don't know the ins and outs of it. Like, you have to be in the trenches with it, don't you? To really understand
people,
it.
like, the other day.
They are just humans.
The point you made is interesting about the for how big sport and football is, for example, how little people actually understand how it is to be a pro. Like, you think in a stadium, there's 80,000 people watching a game who may or may not have been pro. Like, there's obviously a high percentage of them who have never played the game, and there's 22 professionals on the pitch. Like, them 80,000 people don't have a grasp of what that actually is like, and then obviously multiply that by all these stadiums and all the kind of the numbers kind of add up then into the sense that there's so many people that don't know what it's actually like, and like we don't either, to be honest, like, because none of us have that experience as players anyway. Like, so it's a bit mad to think of.
Yeah, that kind of brings you to the next point is so if a child develops a love for football, let's say, for example, through the love of role models, and that just solidifies the love, even if they're able to experience that live, it probably just cements it in the back of their brain. Why do teenagers want to become professional footballers as they start to grow? Is it the idea of being somebody that commands respect? Is it the fact that they want to do well in that career? Where did the motivations come where did the motivations come?
Where do they come from, or where should they come from?
Both actually.
Where do they come from, do you think?
I'd say skill.
In what way?
Like, if you're playing sport and skill, sometimes you get away with like doing your homework.
That's true, actually. Yeah.
Sometimes you get out of class early. you might be perceived as like in a cooler group because you play sport, or all the sporty people might be in the cool group or something like that. I'd say that would be a big one for
The
teenagers.
perks.
And then that kind of filters into then if you make it, the money. So yeah, it's like the perks essentially, isn't it? Yeah,
Or just the status.
the
The status of being good at football, or he's
or the
class at football.
shortcuts it gives you in life.
Yeah, there's
some
loads
would
of people.
say,
I
yeah.
know like loads of people who be like quiet, but then they hang around with a lot of people that play football that they'd never hang around with other than if they played football. Do you know what I mean? Only because they play football, that's where they're.
Yeah, I
in the
think
same group.
a big thing to remember, especially with boys who want to be professional footballers, is that men compete in social hierarchies through status. And I think football, especially being good at sport, is a very good way to get social status, especially at that low-hanging fruit when you're kids. And I think that's a very slippery slope to becoming very tied to your identity, which is something that we've talked about before on this podcast. Because then I think that's when the pressure really cracks, is when your identity gets tied into this idea. I'm going to say an idea of becoming a professional footballer. Because if you don't become that, you're going to lose that status, that fear of friends that only hang out with you because you're a sporting person. I definitely think a lot of teenagers are in autopilot when they want to say that they want to become a pro, to be honest.
Yeah.
From what I've seen anyway. Because, I think it's kind of like what society's telling them to do.
Yeah.
And I think then what you said builds into as like the early teens, that kind of happens, social status. Then by late teens, it's right, this is all I can do to get money, or then it becomes really about like it's like make or break, isn't it? Just for some players where it's like, right, well, I'm not good at anything else, so I have to be a footballer now for the money. So all of a sudden then it becomes more career. And then that's kind of what they say, especially when people are trying to transition from that kind of youth into senior football, is it starts becoming a job. And if you find things become a job very quick or very early, like, how do you even say this? You lose the love of it. And if you lose the love of it, you're going to lose intrinsic motivation that you've always had. And that's, at the end of the day, what you're going to really need. You start being extrinsically motivated, which is going to be less powerful than an intrinsic motivation. And you naturally start losing that as you get to them late teen years, and you're like, right, I don't know anything else. I have to be a footballer now, and to make money, let's say, for example, and all of a sudden you're not doing it because you are a natural competitor or because that's the way you're motivated. You've always loved the game or whatever. You start doing it to maintain your status, kind of like you said. Or you go the opposite way and you just completely quit it, like, and then try go a completely different route. It's interesting.
Something to say?
No.
Oh, sorry. I thought
No,
you
I was looking at you.
Yeah, it's. I think even when kids are playing, they play the game for the actual love of playing football. It's definitely their first love, from what I've seen anyway. Even if you look at our ball mastery groups, those kids are there just for the sake of football, and they really enjoy it and love it. I think even when kids start to go into teenagers, and when teenagers become adults, that sense of self playing the game is definitely kicked out of them from what football is. I think it's even from coaching at that level for years and seeing players, it definitely has a detriment on people's personalities at the extreme level, where people fall into depressive episodes or just have serious mental health issues coming from a real lack of self as well.
I think it's funny in that way, like in football, say, how many people, if you said you were bad, if I said to you, Gary, you're bad at football, you'd nearly take it personal, wouldn't you? Or like, especially growing up, like if someone turned around to you and like, you're brutal at football, you'd nearly be like, shut up, like you hate that, not hate that person, you have a dislike. It's like, it's such a funny thing where it's like, people associate like being good or bad at football with like their personal.
Yeah. Like why does it matter if I'm bad at football? Like,
but like, I might think you're the soundest person on earth, and then if I call you bad at football, it's like you hate me or something.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? People interpret it that way, I think.
They think it's like you're a bad person just because you're bad at it.
Yeah. Or if someone says you're bad at football, it's like, oh, hate that fella. It is though. So often you see that. I've seen so many people fall out over being like.
It's funny because people tie it too much to their actual personality, don't they?
Yeah.
So if you're a younger kid, how do you go about developing a greater sense of self? Do you need good guidance? Parents obviously are going to be as close to you. Teachers, good friend group, school environment. Like, it is very difficult to develop that at such a young age, especially when you're going through X amount of things. But is there methods to do it, do you believe, or what?
I don't know. I think a lot of adults that are in people's lives are just grown-up kids.
Yeah.
And
The majority.
They just pass on whatever they've experienced. I think as well, I think it's quite evident in people like Evan Ferguson, for example, where I don't know, I'd like to see the data on it. I'm just spitballing the wind here, but people who come from families who have sporting experience, because like Evan Ferguson's dad played for Coventry and has worked in football, like he went into coaching after. I find those people probably understand football because of the guidance and the expertise that they have in their corner, and that definitely helps both develop their sense of self, their person, and then also their sporting talents as well. That's very few and far between. I don't know. I think for the overwhelming majority of the population, football is at its core a sport. It's not an identity. The more people can really understand that, irregardless if you are or aren't a footballer, it doesn't determine whether you are or are not a good person and a stable piece of society. How do you communicate that message? I would say it is purely down, especially for kids, it's definitely down from their peer groups and their parents, but there's a lot of moving pieces there all the time. All it takes is one toxic father or mother to communicate that or pass that down to their kid, who then communicates it to you in a friend group. I don't know if there's any shortcut around it, to be honest with you. I think a lot of people grow as a blank slate. As kids, we all come into the world as a blank slate. We learn all these things, let's say behavior patterns and all from parents, from our friend groups, etc. And then we spend the early parts of our adulthood, let's say our 20s into our 30s, of trying to essentially untangle these
and interpret
traumas. Because I think even if you look at a lot of footballers that are coming, like, even that's the thing as well. Professional football is from, like, let's say 18 to 35 maybe. Max, you're a young adult.
So different
35.
every other, like, sport as a career is so different than every other career.
Yeah. Like, you're a young adult at 35. They're probably going to only start untangling what their sense of self is. Yeah. Especially at the top levels. Like,
yeah, and you think, like, our age, like, people can be our age and be, like, moving between more traditional jobs, just moving between different jobs.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want this, I'm trying a different industry. Whereas footballers are like, you're 18.
And
right,
they're
just
probably,
go.
it's not
Be a
even just at
footballer.
18. They're probably in academy systems prior to that,
Yeah.
which are they're very hit and miss. Like, some have really good guidance. Some can just be,
It's like a factory kind of.
don't fancy him. And that's it. That's them ousted for a year. The one thing that they love, like that football, their identity is based around.
And getting
It's
that
just
at
like,
18
nah,
or
it's gone.
19 is still so young. Like,
Yeah, it's crazy.
mental.
hey everybody, sorry for disrupting the podcast. We get hundreds of questions a month about how to join our on-pitch training sessions. The easiest way to do it is to download the Training121 app. If you're on Android or on Apple, all you need to do is search Training121 and you'll be able to download and create your account from there. Yeah,
Then when you think, like you said, like 35 is still like a young adult, and that's
It
essentially when a
is,
footballer's
yeah.
career ends. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
obviously, some of
No
them late their
doubt.
40s now, but it's actually
No
mad when you
doubt,
said
man.
it. I only realised.
Yeah, 100%. Me and Morgan were having this conversation a few days ago, because I know you mentioned it back here again, that once they hit 35, technically they've got another 30 years until, like, official retirement. So what the hell are you going to do for the other 30 years?
Unless you want to really go in the coaching side or
Yeah,
like
100%.
stay in the game.
And I think a lot of people do that,
Industry.
and they've no other choice.
Pundits
Then
and all
becomes-
that.
Nothing else.
Then it just comes, they know nothing else. They've only known football from start to finish. They might not even love it anymore. They just have to do it because they know they have to make a living for the rest of their life. And again, that's when it becomes a chore. Like, you talk to young kids all, especially, like, even those doing like fast courses and stuff, they're like, just football all day, every day. And you're like, yeah, that's great. But that gets very monotonous as well. Like, it becomes very repetitive. And regardless of how much you love football, majority of players be like day to day is grand. Like, you're in half 8, gone by 2, You're just sitting around for the rest of the day. If you don't have other hobbies around, like
Yeah.
it's not great. It's not a great life. Now, I'm not knocking it down. Obviously, if you get the other, like the top side of it, could be a great life, especially if you're self-aware and whatever, however your personality traits are. There's 1,001 factors, but like it's out of all sports and stuff, like football just seems to be so very lonely, doesn't it? A very lonely sport. You're on it in a team, obviously, but it seems like a
How
lot
many
of players
people
are
come
just
out after interview or after careers and go, I don't talk to anyone I used to play football with. Like,
just,
so many football interviews.
it's because it seems to be like that in the culture though. Like every year, we're in the middle of our off season now. Every year, everyone we have conversations with, they could be had such a good last year, and then they're like, I don't know what I'm doing this year. I don't know where I'm going to be living. I don't know what I'm going to be doing. Who am I going to be with? Do I live alone? You just don't know, and that could change like that. And then all of a sudden, you're living a whole different life, and 6 months later, things don't work out. You go on loan, and you're living a whole different life. It's mad. Like it's absolutely mad, and you need to be at any level for football. It's why I think footballers get a very hard rap because the top percentage are seen splashing their cash and doing stupid things on social media and whatever. But those, I don't want to say below that. They're obviously professional footballers. They're obviously top quality. But like they have to deal with all this like year on year, every couple of weeks or months, and like that's not easy. You've got to be resilient to do that. So regardless of whatever level someone's playing at, if you can do that for sustained periods of time, it's very impressive. And still perform every single week if you're fit and stay fit. It's tough. Very tough.
Yeah. Do you think professional football, is a honey trap for kids?
What do you mean by that?
A honey trap. So typically I think what a honey trap is, it looks like this beautiful, amazing thing, but once you jump into honey, you
can't
get
get
stuck in it, you can't get out. So that idea, when you latch onto it when you're younger, but I want to be a professional footballer, like that just chips away at your soul for years. It might not be. It's just something that just gets its teeth into you.
You could argue though,
if you don't have
do you then want kids who are just meh? They're not just saying sport, but don't people want to have that? Yeah, like something that grips them because that motivates you in a way. And then when on the flip side,
100% agree. Yeah.
if you come through a rough career, let's say you've a tough career, whatever, you get to your mid-20s, like, nah, this isn't for me, having whatever, and you retire then essentially, the skill set you have in terms of resilience, if you've came through it somewhat without a lot of trauma, you can argue that 25-year-old is way more prepared than someone who's just kind of like, what's the saying? I can't try and think of a saying, but it's like, you have to have something, or else you're just kind of, you've no identity then. You're the opposite.
That makes a lot of sense. But also, when you consider a lot of how these footballers do come up, they're nothing like our childhoods. Not even close.
What, that they're like
They're
poor?
not even. They're collected from somewhere. They're dropped here. You're here for this set amount of hours. Not like school. It's all football based, pretty much, and they do a little bit of schooling. Obviously, at the higher levels or whatever.
In the academies, like?
Yeah, this is at more so the academy level. And they're kind of just in like this structured box, and then they go to 25 or whatever. Like, nah, this
yeah,
isn't
then
for
they're
me.
probably two babies.
There's like, I don't know anything.
Yeah, I don't know how to
I don't know anything about life. They've done nothing. Like, they've just purely been molded to be a professional footballer, and then they can just go if you don't fancy it anymore. You know, now that's more so academy level, isn't it? Where you're gonna have that structure.
Back to your point, I wholeheartedly agree with that. You're absolutely right. I think even if I look back to when like I wanted to be like a full-time team coach, like that was like the be all and end all for me. I think I had enough self-awareness to think that even if this didn't work, I'm still learning a lot on the job, and it's going to aid me in the future. But that was only because of conversations with people like you or Shane or Gero, for example. Like that was constantly in my ear all the time, is that like this isn't just for the football, it's for like the betterment of yourself as well. So again, that's going back to what we were talking about there a couple minutes ago about the environment being quite important. Because I think it is important to sink your teeth into something, but it's more important to sink your teeth into something that is truly going to serve you. And my point about kids want to be professional footballers is that it's not serving them correctly. It's this falsified idea of what they think their life should be.
And they don't see that all the struggles and stuff to do with sport is actually a really good thing.
But yeah, that they should see like the journey of it.
Yeah.
And I know that's such a typical thing to say, but they should see reward for
process.
working hard, dealing with setbacks. Like you said, like for you coaching, you weren't seeing it as to be that end goal. You were seeing it as, well, this is going to aid me no matter what avenue I go, because trying to sign a player works into business and sales. Like, for
That
example,
was the reason why I got my job.
yeah, managing footballers, like coaching, is like managing people in a bit. Like, it's all not the same, but it's the same sort of skill set.
No doubt.
Whereas
Yeah.
players need to see the journey. Yes, I want to be that footballer, and I want to show that passion is rewarded, and that sometimes it isn't. Sometimes you just get luck, and that's
You gotta live
also
with it.
life.
Yep.
Like, I'm not going to be a basketball player because I'm 5 foot nothing. Like, that's just
Don't give up.
that's just life.
Nor can you
You
shoot.
think I have it?
Nevertheless.
Yeah, I really can't. Yeah, that's really the bigger problem, not my height. But like sometimes, yeah, it just football will teach you that you might have that intense passion, but like you just might get unlucky with injury. Like who retired? Ex Chelsea academy lad.
Izzy Brown.
What's he? 25.
20.
Is he even 25?
4 or 5, I'd say. Yeah.
What did he just had a lot of rake of injuries?
He literally hasn't played for the last 3 years,
Yeah.
4 years, I think. Yeah, just injury after injury after injury after
And like,
injury.
if you could go back and ask him, would you go back to being 10 and go, don't do that. Like, don't be a footballer. Don't try it. Not just to be a footballer. Don't have a passion, so to speak. I don't think any player would change that. They always say that, don't they? Just the life lessons
Yeah.
you have.
Yeah, but
Oh, don't butt me.
But-
I'm not ready for this.
I guarantee you, if you put a gun to the head of every Premier League footballer in the world and Championship footballer and League One footballer and said, if you had the choice to make 75% of the living that you're doing, that you have now, in a different area, would you do it? I think they would all bite their hand off.
Away
for
from
it.
the limelight.
Not away from the limelight. I would say away from football in general. I think football, from what I can gather, the more I read into it, it's just sucking the souls away from people.
Yeah.
People are just.
I don't
like,
know, is that the limelight with social media and it just being so negative?
Yeah, I don't know, but they're filling the void with, let's say, sex, drugs, gambling.
Yeah.
It's
But
again,
don't people do
they're
that
just
anyway
clouding.
in their 9 to 5?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's
I think
a
everyone does
support
it.
system, like people.
Well, not
yeah,
everyone, but-
exactly. If I went to you and you were a
Yeah.
judge and I said, if I gave you 75% of your ways to go and do something else, you might just. I think that's just the way people are. A lot of people are like, oh, I hate what I do, and then when they leave that thing, they're like, oh, I didn't hate it as much as I thought I hated
Yeah.
it when I was in it. You know what I mean?
And I think
like
on,
the grass is always greener.
yeah,
that type of thing.
I think on your point, I think people do that in any job.
Yeah.
Mhm.
People try. I think that's just people escaping from their lack of understanding of themselves, and that's. I think footballers are heightened because it's so visible on social media. Like, but then saying like, if a footballer is seen smoking, for example, all of a sudden it's blown up all over the world. Whereas people smoke all the time, like you know, like on a way. I think it gets blown up, but yeah,
No, yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point. Makes a lot of sense.
But I do also think, like, in growing up, like in youth football and all, like your support system around you is essential. Like, a lot of people are living through their parents who are like, they didn't make it, but it's like, I want my son to make it because I've never been there. I don't know what it's like, but I want to live that life through my son, basically, and that's so common. Whereas,
That's
like,
it's interesting how like that you used Evan Ferguson as an example. It's interesting some people go through football and let's say not him for example, but a parent could actually have had a tough experience in football or a bad experience, but they still want their kid to go through it, which is interesting. Like, because that parent would probably argue, well, it taught me so much about life. Like, so if my son has a chance, why not use football as a vehicle to teach him about life?
but like, say in my scenario, like, my dad would never have been like, play football.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
even with
yeah.
my brother. My brother would be good footballer. Like,
Yeah.
I wasn't like the most gifted footballer in the world, so my brother was actually really good. And he was never like, you have to do football. It would be like, do what you want. You know what I mean? Whereas in my eyes, that'd be the
Yeah.
right way to do it. Whereas if he was like, do football, you probably end up hating it, or else
Yeah.
you would feel the pressure of it a lot more to do it. You might hate it, but you would want to still do it. Like, my brother stopped playing when he didn't like it anymore.
Yeah.
I reckon if, say, my dad was like, do it, that even if he didn't like it, he'd still do it because he didn't want to.
And that would be worse in
Because the
terms of
pressure would be
his
worse if-
relationship
if he
then as
left,
well.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas it's not really
Yeah,
a
it's
big
kind of
thing
like
at
it's
all.
abandonment, isn't it? It's like, if I don't play
He won't
football,
like
my
me.
dad's not gonna love me.
Exactly, yeah. And I think that's like, say, Evan Ferguson, like his dad's involved with football. Like, if you're involved in it, I think, say
Yeah.
we're all involved in it, you might have a better understanding of it, or you might think you have a better understanding of it. Whereas if you've always wanted to get there and you haven't got there, it's like that grass is always greener again. That you think, oh, I want my son to do it, and I'm gonna do everything I can to make sure they get there. And then it's like, you're just putting more pressure on
Do
them.
you
to
remember that American kid? The parents had like psychologists and all for him. He was like, was he an American footballer? He must have been like 10. There was like a video of him training with the oxygen mask. Pre-COVID, like this was years ago. And it's like parents as sports psychologists, sports nutritionists, the kid's like 8.
Or that golf thing, that golf thing you think you talked about on this before.
Short
Just
game.
like throwing lumping money into it and all, like from when they're like 7, like, and just making them.
Again, though, for real high performance.
Yeah,
that
Jakob
works.
Ingebrigtsen's a great example of that.
But
Yeah.
that's what I mean. It doesn't work in the head. It works to high performance to get to that level. But with like say,
It
who's a
actually
top performer,
doesn't even
they're
work as
ruined
much as
after
you
their
think.
career though. Like say
Yeah.
Tiger Woods, he's had mad off the.
I think he had a terrible relationship with his dad, though. Am I incorrect in saying that?
Probably why.
That's the argument.
But
I'm
I think
saying,
that was prior to.
But
Well, there's a
It's-
lot of examples.
it's very easy though to pull an example like that of someone who's done it, like you call early specialization, but that discards the 99%.
Yeah, the masses, 100%. There's so many different examples. It's
no
also
way
the
near
whole
the
idea
right
of
way
like,
to do it.
oh, footballers are made in the streets. You can handpick the amount of footballers that are made in the streets.
Yeah.
The amount of them that are just molded in these academies and they're just distributed.
Yeah.
Like, it's not made in the streets.
What were we going to talk about Jakob Ingebrigtsen there?
Well, his dad has 3 sons, I think, that run. Paddy would give a better synopsis of it, but essentially, your man Jakob Ingebrigtsen is a joke long distance runner, short. He does everything, right? The most molded runner there is out there. He's only like 20 something and he wipes the floor with everybody. And they've been like in this specialized training center in Switzerland, I believe, for like the last X amount of years since they're young, like, and they're just on the money.
Yeah.
On the money. Literally, the brother will pace for Jakob. He's that good. So that he will run out, he'll pace for him. So they'll have tactics going into the race. Then it's like when he starts to dip, your man goes, and that's it. He wins the race. Like he's unbelievable. Like
What age is he?
for only a young lad.
22, but at age 16, Ingebrigtsen became the youngest man in history to run a mile in less than 4 minutes. The same year, he broke the European under-20 record in the 300 meters steeplechase. As a junior, he claimed 4 medals altogether at the 2017 European under-20 Championships. Yeah, the first time Patrick talked to me about the Ingebrigtsens was that, yeah, they're all trained by their father, until 2022. So they're all the way through their lives. That's him and his older brothers, Henrik and Philippe. They're all middle distance international runners from Norway. But they were early specialization. But same as Tiger Woods,
it's an outlier.
same as Michael Phelps, same as the Serena or the Williams sisters as well. I think it's a good play to be the world's number one, but what's on the chopping block?
Yeah.
I'd say the same thing for
Yeah,
some
I
academies
just
in
don't
Ireland
think
as well.
I think they're just outliers.
Yeah, no,
I
I
think that-
100% agree with you. Yeah.
I think you could argue that they would have made it without the early specialization.
No, I don't know.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You've done a bit of reading here, though, haven't you?
I think it
as well?
depends
I
on the
would-
scenario, but I think I know exactly
I
where
think
you're coming from.
I'm fairly confident
But
it's
again,
proven.
I think-
There's no massive benefit though.
Interesting.
It's like that with the
Considering the trade-offs.
Yeah.
yeah.
the lads on the streets. Oh, they made on the streets. They're a tops footballer. Like, regardless of what they do on the streets, they're going to be tops regardless. Those players, you go away for a year, come back, still have it, no problems. Just get them fit. That's it. Like you have it or you don't, and then some people need to be molded, obviously. But yeah, they're extreme outliers. Away with the fairies, outliers.
Yeah.
Ingebrigtsen, they're a good example for running anyway.
Especially like physical sports like running where it's very, very genetic heavy. Like
yeah.
But yeah, it
Even
plays a
like-
huge factor.
Yeah, because Kobe Bryant, for example, wasn't specialization. He's more environmental. He lived in Italy. Do you know that for when he was a kid?
I
Don't know.
think, yeah. That's where he started
He used to play
basketball.
football.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kobe
That's
Bryant.
mad.
He lived in Italy, yeah. When he was a kid, yeah. He used to play basketball and soccer, yeah.
How different cultures will help you with that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Bleeding mad stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mad stuff.
But yeah, to summarise why the kids want to be professional footballers, I definitely think a love for the game.
Mm-hmm. Which is good.
Yeah.
That's the good one.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
good.
The other one, there's a lot of negative ones as well, but
The need, not even the want. So especially if you're coming from poor areas, the need is the only thing that they have, even just to escape crime or drugs. As they become teenagers, I think a lot of it is to keep status or the idea of better status or elite status. And then as they get older, it seems to be a push of it's all they have really in their late teens. Is that like they've given everything. They're in academies, for example, where they know nothing else bar that. And then I think for the odd person here and there, I think it's just something that they've always wanted to do. They come from good families, good backgrounds. They're extremely talented. They've got a good support network. Evan Ferguson's a good example of that. I guarantee you that's all he ever thought about wanting to do. I never met the guy. I have met him, but I never talked to him about any of this. So
We'll get him on.
hopefully,
So yeah.
I would like to pick the brain of a pro on why.
I think they'd all change, but just to finish, I think like some of them would still love it. Like I don't think everyone hates
No,
it.
yeah, I
No,
think so.
no
There's some
way,
that still
no
love
way,
it.
no way.
So it's not all bleak. It's not like
I think the true
Being a
competitors
footballer
will
is
like,
always,
I just love competing against people.
Mm-hmm.
or just a love for it, whatever.
Mm.
So it's not all bleak,
I'll do them a gloom.
doom and gloom. Yeah.
I love it. I love yous too.
Super.
I've definitely lost a bit of love for football.
Have you?
Yeah, I think over the last 9 years, I've definitely found more of a love of people, I have to say. Definitely. That's why I love coaches still.
So you love kick and sphere, don't you?
Yeah, I love it.
I'd
I'd
never-
say
love
now,
it. Even like I
Never go back.
Really?
No.
I'd go
I get
back
asked
tomorrow.
frequently.
I'd
No,
go back
never,
tomorrow.
never.
I still love kicking like on a
That's
Sunday
mad.
I'm not a
morning.
big
kicking a
competitor.
ball.
Yeah,
on
that-
it.
I love
you are.
competing.
You're
Love
just really
competing.
competitive.
Never in football. Hate it.
But why is that? Just because the people? Is that like the opposite of Gary? Or what?
There's probably a lot of deeper stuff to it, but the majority was just like the thoughts of going out
And
and
shit.
playing a game in 90 minutes. I'm just like, no way.
Really?
No way.
I would play if you said there was a 90-minute game when this is over and there's 22 lads outside, I'd join in. If there's 21 lads and
The boys out
I'd
at
join
20
in.
past
I'd
12.
join in. I would. Honestly.
No way.
That's mad.
The only way you'd get me on if I was competing with the likes of yourselves.
Yeah,
I'd have to compete with like someone
that's
I
mad.
care about. Other than that, no interest.
That's interesting. So
No
there's
interest.
two sides. Two men who don't love that kind of bit of it, and then I would feel like you still really, really love it, yeah.
Yeah. I think I just love watching games, to be fair.
I love watching a game of
Yeah.
sphere. I'm just talking
No,
about
there's a lot of
purely
different
playing.
I know,
Yeah.
That's what I was
Yeah.
saying.
I thought
playing.
I've already got to play a game right now because I'm terribly unfit, but
But you'd like it.
Would
You'd
you
love
like
it.
to play a
I
game?
think you would. Or no, maybe. You
I
speak
don't know,
yourself.
because I presume I would if I really wanted to. I thought I'd miss it more than I do, to be honest.
That's mad.
That is interesting.
Yeah. I think I'd just love to go jumping a possession grid. I think I'd have a
I
bit of
love a
that.
possession grid though.
Yeah.
That's the
I'd
thing.
hate
I
a
love.
session. I'd hate that.
I love a possession
I
grid.
couldn't imagine that worse than going and training. If you said
Pop.
train Monday to Friday in the mornings, I'd say no.
I'd
But
like that.
Straight into the
Just
game,
give me
into
the
the
match on the
6.
Saturday.
Get
Just give
him
me
into
the
the
match.
6. Yeah.
Right.
That's funny.
That's it for the episode. Keep an eye on the socials for some clips. If you are watching this on YouTube, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe. If you're watching on Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts, please be
Listening.
sure
Listening.
Listening.
Please be sure to leave a star review.
Listening.
I'm not going to ask for a 5-star review. You give this podcast a review that you want. I'm not going to force you. I'm not going to force you to be a pro footballer either. But if you want to be a pro footballer, come to Training121.
That's that.